We throw over 50 events ranging from huge conferences to forums to meetups to webinars. Being part of our community opens you up to over 700 like-minded individuals, get genuine unbiased content and Oracle experts to answer all of your questions. Before we get started, I just wanted to do a quick bit of housekeeping. Now, Simon will be taking questions throughout the webinar, so you don't have to wait until the end. So if you do have a question, please just pop it in the question box on the right, and I will pass that over to Simon and he will answer that straight away. If you're having trouble hearing me or the image looks a bit distorted, please just type that into the question box and we'll try and get that sorted for you as well. Following the webinar, you will receive a recording of this. Included in that will be a feedback form and Simon's contact details as well. Please do complete that feedback form because it really does help us shape the future of these events. If you have any questions for Simon as well, his contact details will be there for you to reach out. Just wanted to talk about a few events that we've got coming up. Ireland is coming up. It's fast approaching. It's hosted in Dublin on the 4th and 5th of April. We have over 40 speakers delivering content in database development, analytics and big data, Apex and applications. On the screen are some of the sessions that may be of interest to you. If you do want to view the agenda or more about the event, please do just follow the link on the screen or email me directly and I can help you out with that. Our next big event after that is our UKOUG Scotland. That's in June. We are doing a call for content at the moment. So if you feel you're ready to present, please just follow the link on the screen and submit your presentation and our team will review that and get back to you. Overall, as I mentioned previously, we throw over 50 different events a year, including many webinars such as this one. So please do just check out our website to see our calendar. If you do have any suggestions for events or any webinars you want to host or topics you want to see answered, please do just send me a quick email and we will try and get that content delivered to you guys. Don't be shy in reaching out at all. Without further ado, I now have the pleasure of handing over to Simon from Apex Test Automation, who we are very thankful for delivering our content today. I will just share the screen now.
Okay, can you all hear me? Or can you hear me at least?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, so let's just see if I can get this to work. Just bear with me. Okay, so you should be able to see my whole screen.
Perfect.
Yeah, okay, so I'm going to be presenting today just showing my desktop screen so that I can sort of slide between my presentation and some demos that I'm going to be doing as well on the right hand side. I hope that works for everybody, but it seems to be the best way to do these things. Okay, so are we good to go, do you think?
Good. I believe so.
Okay.
Go.
Excellent. Okay. All right, so well, let's start off with some introductions. So as Hayden said, my name's Simon Hunt. I work for a company called Apex Test Automation, which does automated testing for Apex applications. And I'll be touching on that during the course of the presentation and showing you a little bit about Apex Test Automation. You may have seen some of my presentations out at Kscope and some of the sort of Tech 17, Tech 18 presentations that I've done, both on security and on Apex Test Automation. So hopefully some of you have seen some of my presentations before. Okay, so a little bit about me. I've been writing Apex applications, I think really since the very early days when it was called HTMLDB, and even slightly previously to that as well. Some of you may have known it as Project Marvel, I think, and flows and that sort of thing. I saw it as a promising emerging technology back in the day and have really sort of built my career around it, like many others in the community. I have also been in the military. I have served full-time and I'm still serving part-time. I've been a reservist now for around 23 years. And much of my work has been around the UK Ministry of Defence and the defence industry as a whole. And again, I'll be touching on some of that with this presentation. I have recently completed a master's degree. And the master's degree was done with Cranfield University in the UK. And for the final year dissertation, I sort of centered my thesis around citizen development and low-code practices and strategies. And that's really formed, or that research has really formed the basis of this presentation. And this is the first time that I've delivered this. I'm hoping to work it up to be, more of a conference talk. So I look forward to hearing any feedback. I'd like to know how useful it's been, and also if there's any other areas I need to go into, or anything that I've missed, or ways to improve it, that sort of thing. So I certainly look forward to your feedback. Everything that I'm going to show you, I'm happy to share. I'm very keen on the community. I'm very involved with the community. As you can see, I'm an Oracle ACE associate. So everything that you see here, I'm more than happy to share with the community. Just drop me a line afterwards, and I can share these presentations or any of the supporting précis. Okay, let's see if this works. Okay, so the aim of today. So really, what I'm looking to do is to develop some best practices really for building strategy and policy for citizen development. Okay, and this is really centered around sort of large organizations, large public sector organizations. I want it rooted in best practice. I want to know really what successes organizations have had. And as part of my dissertation, I did get a number of different case studies. Most were centered around how not to do it, but there were some areas of or some centers of excellence in there that I can build best practice on. This needs to be constantly evolving. This concept of citizen development is actually fairly new, and so this is an evolving process. I want to build it based around sort of community engagement activities. And then finally, I want to make all of the sort of documentation that I produce, make it all open source so that it can be shared back with the community. Okay, so first of all, let's go through some definitions and sort of clarify exactly what we're talking about. Okay, so let's start off with citizen development. And citizen development is probably a term that I first heard, I think, about 2 years ago. Previous to that, I was using terms like end user computing, end user software engineering, end user development, that sort of thing. Those are quite overloaded terms and are used in a number of different contexts. Citizen development, I think, is actually a better description of what it is that we're talking about and helps define the scope. Gartner has defined it as someone that builds business applications using sanctioned environments. The key there being sanctioned environments. So if these aren't organizational sanctioned environments, then I think you're talking about shadow IT or rogue IT. I would also slightly change that that Gartner definition in that I think it's a developer that's working outside of core IT, which it doesn't clarify in that particular definition there. So really, for me, it's somebody working outside of core IT using sanctioned environments. So that's the first definition. Second definition is low code. Okay, and we're going to talk a little bit more about low code, but this is the Forrester Wave definition, and it talks about low code platforms enable rapid delivery of business applications with a minimum of hand coding and less upfront investment in setup, training, and deployment. So that's quite an interesting definition. For me, it doesn't actually really clarify what low code is. And I'll come on to this in the next slide. The final one there is no code. I like this definition from Betty's Blocks. And it basically says it makes it possible to build applications without knowledge of coding. No code platforms leverage technology to empower the ability of humans to innovate rather than impede it. Okay, and I quite like that as a definition. And again, the emphasis there is on the knowledge of coding. Really, you shouldn't need any knowledge of coding to use a no code platform. Okay, so moving on. So here's a chart that I've seen bandied around in a few other presentations on a similar vein. Okay, and on here we can see that you've kind of got no code going through to low code, going through to full code, and then you've got productivity on the y-axis, and then levels of control across the x-axis. And the implication here is no code is more productive. And I think in some instances that's true. However, I don't think it's necessarily true in all instances. It really depends. And then one of the issues I've got here is what exactly is low code? Now, we can define no code and we can define full code. So if we look at full code is generally seen as the third generation languages. Okay, so C#, Java, you know, Python, those sort of languages really are the sort of full control end of the spectrum. And then if we look at no code would be no programming languages at all. Okay, so really just using pick lists and sort of UI controls to build systems. So if we take those two as things that we can define, I think low code really is then anything that sits in the middle. And that can be hybrid environments. And those hybrid environments might be environments whereby you have all of the no code sort of UI components, but you can also include full code or 3GL languages. It can also be, I think, more high-level scripting languages, things like jQuery, CoffeeScript, the new Oracle, what's it called, the quick SQL sort of scripting languages. Those sort of things I think are also included in the low code definition. Okay, so why has this become a big thing now, or why is it people are now starting to talk about this? And let's see if this works. Okay, the cloud. Okay, so the cloud is the game changer here. Okay, so back in the day, before we had cloud computing, citizen development was really limited by the technology. So what we found was largely it was kind of DB fast and sort of Microsoft Access type systems that people were developing, and you could only go so far with these desktop platforms. Many of you may well remember the days when you'd sit in an office and somebody would shout out, you know, is anybody in such and such an application, and can you close it down so that I can go into it? And this was due to the sort of data locking limitations around Microsoft Access and that sort of thing. But now that we've got the cloud, what we found is that really anybody with you know, a corporate sort of debit card can spin up a very advanced enterprise level cloud platform and start building and start generating their own systems. Okay, and then now this has made many of the issues we found with citizen developer in the old days, you know, much more critical. Much bigger risks are now apparent. Okay, and then just to see that on a graph, what we can see here is this is a graph over time of shadow IT and its use of cloud. If we go back to 1997, that's really what the first time that sort of cloud was defined. And then I think in 1999, we saw the first sort of, I think Salesforce came online for the very first time then. That was the first emergence of sort of cloud computing. And then we saw Amazon Web Services, and I think in about 2006. But then where we see this sort of, you know, the bend in this hockey stick curve here, this is 2012. This is where we started to see the emergence of public cloud, of software as a service, and that sort of thing. And this is really where what we saw is shadow IT starting to merge and move onto the public cloud. Okay, so as part of the research that I did for my dissertation, I came across this this quite interesting journal as part of my research. So this came around. This is very interesting. This is 1987. So this is way back then. And what they said in the journal, and you can look this one up. I think it's you can get this off Google Scholar. And what you can find is they talk then about these kind of 5 different strategies that you could take for end user computing, citizen development, that sort of thing. And they range here from I'll say fair at the bottom end, at the kind of we don't really care about it from a corporate perspective attitude, all the way through to the fully sort of operations based, the fully supported, it's part of your core IT, so on and so forth. And then in between you've kind of got this these other strategies